Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar run by the University of Reading on BTEC study skills. So a very warm welcome from us at the University of Reading. My name is Louise Izzard and I'm a Regional Student Recruitment and Access Officer at the university, and I'm based full-time in London. I'm also joined by my colleague with me today, and I'll just let her introduce herself now.
Hi, so my name's Rachel. I also work at the University of Reading and I'm a Student Recruitment and Access Officer, and usually I am based full-time on the Reading campus.
In today's webinar, we are going to just be giving a short presentation to start off with, all about study skills specifically related to BTEC and those of you in college.
So different university styles of teaching. So what's it like to study at university? So you will be taught in a range of different ways, and that will depend on your particular degree that you're studying. But one of the ways that you will be taught is through lectures. So this is where a lecturer will stand up in front of potentially a large group of students and will talk to you maybe in a bit of a way that you think about when you watch films, and the lecturer is stood at the front and all the students are in the raised seats, and this is kind of normally to a large group of students, and you might sit in a lecture hall similar to the bottom picture on the screen, and different courses will have a different amount of lectures. You'll also have seminars, so these are much smaller in number. It's a great way for you to engage with an academic on a smaller scale, a chance for you to have a bit more of a discussion, ask those questions. There'll also be independent study. So all students will have to do a lot of independent study whilst at university. And for you guys listening today, while studying your BTEC, you might be quite familiar with independent study. And this is maybe something that you're a little bit more used to than other students who are studying A-levels. So at university, you'll be conducting your own research, you're going to be forming your own opinions, you're going to be taking charge of your learning. And that's one of the biggest differences between further education and higher education. So those in the science sector will be using the labs for practical lab work. There might be the opportunity for work placements as well. So not all of our courses have work placement opportunities, but many do. Some they might be a whole year. So usually how that will work is you'll spend 2 years at university, you'll spend a third year out in industry on a placement, and then you'll return to university for your 4th and final year. Some courses may have a smaller placement, so maybe in the summer or a couple of weeks as a part of your course. And again, for you studying a BTEC, potentially you've already had the opportunity to take on work experience, and so that's something that you're going to be maybe a little bit more used to than those who are studying A-levels. And also studying abroad, so many of our courses have opportunities to study abroad. Again, it could be a whole year or maybe a smaller segment of time. And there's also trips and site work, so many courses will have the opportunities to go off to different places that are relevant to your degree. And some degrees having site work as well. So now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the comparisons between college and university. So an FE college potentially is more similar to university in many ways compared to those who stay on at school or sixth form. Potentially an FE college is slightly more flexible in terms of the structure. So you might be used to just going into college for the days and times that you have lessons. Whereas maybe those in school and sixth form, go in at 9 and they leave at 3, and that's what they're kind of used to. So a couple of the things that, define a little bit of a difference between college and university. So proactive versus reactive. So at university, you're going to be needing to be really proactive. You're going to be taking ownership of your workload. You're going to be meeting deadlines. There's not going to be somebody chasing you up for work. If you miss your deadline and you're not handing it in, that's going to be on you. That's your responsibility. There's loads of help and support available at university, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But it might be a little bit different to college. Whereas at university, the emphasis is on you to go and seek out that help and support. There's loads available, but if you're needing it, you need to be proactive. You need to kind of put your hand up and ask for help if you need it. Choice versus prescribed. So at university, you might have the opportunity to pick some optional modules, which maybe means you can pick things that really interest you. If your course has a dissertation, then you're going to be picking your dissertation topic. There's lots of choices to make at university. You won't be studying the exact same course content as a classmate, for instance. And also, with university, so when you're at college, if you were to miss a lesson, your lecturer or your tutor, they might contact home and let them know that you missed a lesson. But at university, if you sleep in and you miss a lecture, that's on you, and that's on you to catch up on the work that you've missed. So you take ownership of your work, you take ownership of your time. So it's really important that you make those kind of good choices when you're at university. Depth versus breadth. So at college, you'll have a certain content that you have to study, you have to achieve in order to kind of get your qualification, and you and your classmates will cover that content together. It might be at university that you cover less topics overall, but you're more likely to go into much more depth with the topics that you do study. Leading experts. So at the University of Reading, for instance, you're going to be taught by leading experts in their field. So academics who potentially do research alongside teaching, and they're renowned in their specialist subject. And as I mentioned, independence. Not only is university about maybe leaving home for the first time, taking charge of maybe shopping and cooking and things like that, but in terms of your study, you're going to be an independent learner, maybe much more than you're used to. But as a BTEC learner, you've probably already got used to that to a certain extent, and that's going to put you in a really good position for university study. And now we're going to move on to just a couple of top tips in terms of university and studying and things to be aware of. So be prepared, practice, independent working as much as possible. There is, as I mentioned, there's definitely a certain amount of that on your BTEC qualification. So yeah, really utilize that skill. It will really put you in a really good position for when you reach an undergraduate degree. So obviously at the moment, with you potentially being, working your kind of lessons at home, it's really important to set yourself up a nice study space. And that's something that will really help you when you're at university as well, because you will be especially in your first year, you might be in halls of residence, in your room, studying. And so it's really good to get used to, motivating yourself to, set up a good study space, be able to work without a parent, over your shoulder asking you if you've done this, that, or the other. And then research. So you'll obviously be thinking about, university potentially, and it's really important to do your research about, different universities and how each course is taught. As Louise mentioned earlier on, and as did I, have a little look of how that, course is assessed, how it's taught. See if it kind of, you think it's a suitable, place for you to learn, and that's again you're going to really thrive in that kind of subject style of teaching. And then once you are, you've made your choice, you've applied, you've got your firm, you've got your insurance all sorted, then there might be an opportunity for some pre-reading before you get to university. It's obviously really advisable to do as much as that as possible so that you kind of put yourself in a really good position for when you actually start your course in that September. And then my final slide that I'm going to chat through to you today really briefly, just about asking for help. There's so much support available at university, at the University of Reading in particular. We have student mentoring, so you can chat to students who are in a year that's higher than you, so that you can get their perspective and their support. You can approach your personal tutor for help. There's academics that are really helpful. The library has so many resources available to you. So an academic liaison librarian, there's loads of study spaces for you to utilise. There's ways and advice for how to develop your study skills. And then there's also fantastic disability advice service as well. So there's so much support with mental health, with well-being. any disabilities as well. There's a fantastic team on campus. Things can be in place before you enroll at the university, and then also ongoing support during your studies. So I just really want to reassure you that there's so much support available. There's ways that you can, you know, as Louise mentioned earlier on, if you're just struggling with maybe academic writing, or there's an essay, you're just not sure where to start, or you know how to reference, or you know you're a bit stuck on something, then there's so much advice and support available on campus for you to, you know, improve yourself, you know, get better at something that you struggle with, and then yeah, be able to utilize that support on site as well.